This waterway moves $270 billion worth of trade every year and is a vital shortcut linking two vast oceans. It now faces one of its biggest threats, a traffic jam like no other, which is disrupting the entire global economy. With cargo ships stuck for days and freight costs skyrocketing, one of the world's most crucial trade routes is on the brink of collapse. So, of course, this has sparked a high-stakes race, with nations scrambling to build the next mega project to resolve the crisis. This is the $270 billion race to replace the Panama Canal. By now, you may have heard that the Panama Canal is in deep trouble. For over a century, it has been one of the most important trade routes on the planet. Opened in 1914, this 82-kilometer waterway connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, saving ships weeks of travel and handles approximately 5% of global trade. Before the canal, cargo ships had to take a much longer, more treacherous route. For example, a ship sailing from Europe to California would have to go all the way around South America through the stormy Strait of Magellan. This journey could take months. The only alternative was the Northwest Passage in the Arctic, which was frozen most of the year, making it virtually impassable. The idea for a canal that would connect two oceans dates back to the 16th century, but it wasn't until the late 1800s that serious plans were set in motion. The French, led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, first tried to build the canal in the 1880s but faced insurmountable obstacles. The project was halted after a decade due to disease outbreaks, harsh terrain, and financial mismanagement, claiming thousands of lives. Despite the setbacks, the dream of an interoceanic waterway persisted. In 1904, with the purchase of the French assets and the completion of a new agreement with Colombia, the United States took over the project construction under the leadership of engineer John Frank Stevens and later George Washington Goethals. The biggest challenge was the geography itself. The canal needed to traverse a 50-mile stretch of rugged terrain, including the 30-meter elevation difference between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. To overcome this, engineers designed a system of locks whereby giant chambers raise and lower ships as they pass through. The construction was grueling. To dig through the mountains and clear the canal's path, workers used dynamite and steam-powered shovels. Over 200 million cubic meters of earth had to be moved. Over 6,000 workers, most of them laborers from the Caribbean, died from heat stroke, rock slides, and tropical diseases like malaria and yellow fever. The construction also faced technical difficulties, like the unstable soil and the threat of landslides. But the development of innovative technologies kept the project moving forward. The final design featured 3 locks, one at each end and one in the middle, at Gatun Lake, an artificial reservoir created to store water for the locks. The total construction cost was $375 million. In 1914, today, that is about $122 billion. But it was worth it. The canal was a game changer for global trade, and by the end of its first year, 1,000 ships had already passed through. Over time, traffic grew exponentially, making the canal one of the most critical trade routes in the world. But today, the signs are clear. The canal's future is uncertain. Simply put, it's running out of water. The main source of water for the canal, the Gatun Lake, is at its lowest levels in nearly 60 years, and experts are warning that this could become a recurring problem. Climate change is intensifying the situation, causing more frequent and severe droughts. And to make matters worse, daily transits have dropped from 36 to 38 ships per day to just 24. Larger ships are forced to carry less cargo due to draft restrictions, and freight costs are skyrocketing, with some routes seeing price hikes of up to 400%. And if the canal can't keep up, the entire global supply chain could feel the consequences. But this crisis isn't just about water. Ships are getting bigger, and there are more of them than ever before. In response, countries around the world are scrambling to build alternatives, hoping to capture some of the $270 billion worth of cargo that moves through the canal every year. Despite the fierce competition, Panama isn't giving up its crown without a fight. The Panama Canal Authority is investing heavily in both short-term fixes and long-term upgrades. One of the most significant efforts is the Indio River Dam project. This is a $1.6 billion initiative designed to create a new reservoir that will secure enough water to ensure at least 36 daily transits, even during severe droughts. The PCA is also implementing a new booking system, limiting customers to just one slot per day to improve efficiency. But even with these upgrades, the Panama Canal's ability to handle the growing number of larger vessels and increasing traffic is uncertain. This is why several ambitious competitors are stepping up to challenge its dominance. Countries and companies across the Americas are rushing to develop alternative trade routes, each hoping to capture a slice of the $270 billion worth of cargo that currently flows through the canal every year. One of the most advanced alternatives is Mexico's interoceanic corridor. The plan is simple. Instead of ships navigating the entire length of the canal, cargo will be offloaded at one port, transported by rail across Mexico's isthmus, and reloaded onto ships on the other coast. This 308-kilometer rail system is especially attractive when the Panama Canal is congested, offering a faster route for shipments. The $7.5 billion project also includes significant upgrades to both ports and aims to handle up to 1.4 million 20-foot equivalent units annually by 2033. Another key contender is Colombia, which is working on an ambitious 240-kilometer railway project connecting its Atlantic and Pacific coasts. The project is estimated to cost between $7 and $13 billion and is part of a broader national plan to revitalize the country's railway system. But perhaps the most ambitious, yet controversial alternative is Nicaragua's proposed $64.5 billion mega canal. The 278-kilometer waterway designed to accommodate the world's largest ships would feature locks significantly larger than those of the Panama Canal. While the scale of this project is enormous, it has encountered significant hurdles. Funding has been a major issue, with Chinese construction company HKND, once a primary backer, pulling out of the project. However, despite the obstacles, the Nicaraguan government is pushing ahead, though many experts remain skeptical about its feasibility. Honduras is also entering the race with its own innovative idea, the Land Bridge Project. This plan aims to connect the Atlantic and Pacific coasts using a rail and truck corridor, bypassing the Panama Canal altogether. Unlike the Panama Canal, which relies heavily on water, Honduras's land bridge would use land-based transportation to move goods between the two oceans. The land bridge project is expected to handle up to 5 million containers annually by 2045. Another potential alternative gaining attention is the Northwest Passage, the Arctic sea route that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans via the Canadian Arctic archipelago. As climate change causes polar ice to melt, this route is becoming more accessible, making it a viable option for shipping between the two oceans. While the Northwest Passage has been an option for centuries, it's never been practical due to the thick ice that blocked its path. However, with the effects of climate change, the Arctic route is opening up to larger vessels, and its accessibility is expected to improve in the coming years. Visit our channel to discover a video covering the Arctic Silk Route. While the canal continues to be a vital artery for international trade, the rise of these competitors presents a clear challenge to its dominance. If the canal were to shut down or face major restrictions, the US economy would feel the pain, China's trade would take a hit, and Latin America would suffer. Other than the drought, another issue at hand is the growing US concern over China's increasing influence around the Panama Canal. President Trump has raised alarms about China's strategic investments in key canal infrastructure, including ports operated by Hutchison Ports PPC and $2.5 billion in telecom, highways, and bridges. The U.S., previously distracted, is now eager to regain its strategic influence. With President Molino in Panama, Washington is eyeing more investments in Panamanian infrastructure, incentives for U.S. businesses, and stronger security ties. The future of the Panama Canal holds uncertainties, and with everyone wanting a piece of the global trade pie, the race to replace the canal is on. So what do you think? Can the Panama Canal survive the growing competition, or is it time for a new era in global trade? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Megastructures for more.